Good morning, everyone. My name is Carmelo Rizzi. I'm the president of the European Society of Pediatric Oncology, and I'm very proud, I would say also delighted to have the possibility to open this important meeting, which is entitled "Why Childhood Cancer Should Stay High on the EU Agenda for 2024-2029." Now, for pediatric oncologists, this is quite obvious, and I am here representing, let's say, the community of the pediatric oncology, but we have many other panelists representing different areas of the pediatric oncology. And the reason is that we all want to put the name end to the story of cancer in children. And this is why we want that the European Union will be informed about our initiative, but will be on our side for to support these initiatives. There will be a couple of videos opening this session. In particular, I'm really happy to have the possibility to give the floor for a video message to the MEP Loucas Fourlas, who will address his greetings and his thoughts to the whole pediatric oncology community here gathered. So the video can start. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it is an honor to host this event today as we discuss a critical issue that affects many families across Europe, childhood cancer. Every year, thousands of children are diagnosed with cancer, and each diagnosis affects not only the child but also their families, friends, and communities. These children have dreams and potential, and it is our responsibility to help them achieve those dreams. Back to school is not the same for all the children. As we prepare for the next EU legislative term, we must ensure that childhood cancer remains a top priority. First, early diagnosis and treatment save lives. We need to make sure that every child in Europe has access to the best possible care, no matter where they live. Second, we must support research to improve treatments. The EU has a unique role in funding research that focuses on childhood cancers. Third, we need to support the families affected by childhood cancer. The emotional and financial pressure on these families can be overwhelming. As policymakers, we must create systems that provide them with the help and the resources they need during difficult times. Last but not least, raising awareness is crucial. By educating our communities about childhood cancer, we can foster understanding and support for affected families. Awareness can also lead to earlier detection, which is really important for successful treatment. In addition, that's why we are here together, paving the way. In conclusion, I urge all of you to join me in making a strong commitment to keep childhood cancer at the top of the EU agenda. Let's work together to ensure that every child with cancer receives the care they need and the hope they deserve. Thank you for your commitment to this important cause and your dedication. Together we can make a real difference in the lives of children and families facing cancer. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends.
So thank you very much for this introduction. I have to thank MEP Loucas Fourlas because over the last few years, he has been always close to our community and backing us up on all our initiatives. And I can tell you with the new parliament, we will have even more people, more MEPs working with us towards the main topics that MEP Loucas Fourlas already touched: inequalities, early diagnosis, support. This is an area where improvements can still achieved and massively achieved. I am now pleased to introduce the second video address from Commissioner Stella Kyriakides, And Stella Kyriakides, the commissioner, has been as well very much involved in this area of pediatric oncology. I would say in the cancer area more in general. So I am very glad to ask to start this video, because this will address the greetings of Stella Kyriakides to the pediatric oncology community. Please, thank you very much.
Honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, dear Loucas, addressing childhood cancer is a key priority for Europe's Beating Cancer Plan. Thank you, Loucas, for shining a light on this issue. As I know, you represent through your voice families and parents of children whose lives have been touched by cancer. Sadly, every year more than 2,000 children lose their lives from cancer in the EU, and every life lost is devastating. Thankfully, medical and scientific progress means children diagnosed with cancer have better survival rates than ever. But there are significant differences across the European Union, and we need to tackle these inequalities. With Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, we have made real progress over the past 4.5 years. The new EU network of comprehensive cancer centres will support access to diagnosis and treatment, while the interspeciality cancer training programme helps deliver the highest standards of care. This complements work by the European Reference Network for Paediatric Cancer on increasing survival rates and quality of life. Our new dialogue with young persons whose lives have been touched by cancer has provided and is allowing us to focus on quality of life and even influence new research topics on how to tackle side effects of treatment. Childhood Cancer International Europe and the European Society for Paediatric Oncology are active contributors and partners to this dialogue. The EU Youth Survivor Network is also now in place, and it enables young survivors to connect with each other. The EU's new approach to mental health supports children and families affected by cancer. Moreover, we have an upcoming joint action on paediatric palliative care. The reform of the EU's pharmaceutical rules aims to boost the development of innovative treatments so that we can address unmet medical needs, while the European health data space will facilitate the reuse of health data for research, in particular on rare cancers. These are all pillars of the strong European Health Union we are building. I would like to thank the European Society of Paediatric Oncology and Childhood Cancer International Europe for their work and for our very close and fruitful cooperation in recent years. Looking to the future, I'm very confident that the next Commission will continue ensuring that Europe's Beating Cancer Plan delivers. Before ending, I want to share a quote I recently read about children who are going through a cancer experience. Their laughter will make your heart melt. Their strength will make a grown person cry. If you ever see a child fight cancer, it will change your life forever. Working with children and families whose lives have been touched by cancer has changed our lives forever. We will continue to shine the light, and we are acting now. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for, to the Commissioner Stella Kyriakides. I cannot be more in agreement and emphasize, underline all the various words that the Commissioner has told and has said, especially the last quote of her speech. I think that looking at, this community made of parents, cured children, physicians, nurses, I think in these years it has been a great privilege to work for the children with cancer and to look positively for the future. And we are sure that the future will be bright and the light will shine still a lot. So again, I wish to thank on behalf of the whole pediatric oncology community made of all these stakeholders. And here we have a great representation of the CCI Europe, the Parents Association, and I think that today we will have the proof that this community is strong and is ready to go with the help of the European Society and the European Commission. So I will hand the floor over to Karina Schneider from CCI Europe, and I'm sure I will be here for the whole meeting. I'm sure that this will be a great meeting for all the listeners. Karina, the floor is yours, and thanks again for doing this together with SIOP Europe.
Thank you very much, Carmelo, for the warm welcome and the introduction. I can only echo what you said. CCI Europe is equally happy to do this together with SIOP Europe. So hello, everybody. I look forward very much to discussing with our distinguished panel today about why, and more importantly, how we can make sure that childhood cancer stays on top of the EU agenda in the upcoming years. So I will very briefly introduce our panelists before we go to the questions. So first of all, I would like to introduce Professor Gilles Vassal, who is pediatric oncologist at Gustave Roussy Cancer Center and SIOP Europe board member. Then I'm very, very happy that we say a warm welcome to the newly elected member of the European Parliament, Vlad Voiculescu from the Renew Group. Hello. Then hello very, very much to Anna Novak, head of sector at the Cancer Mission Secretariat. Then also a very warm welcome to Adrian van den Hoven, General Director at Medicines for Europe. And last but not least, hello to Delphine Hinen, founder of Key Cancer and committee member of CCI Europe. So I would like to start with Gilles. So from your experience, what are the most significant clinical challenges in treating childhood cancer across the different regions of Europe? And also, how can these challenges be addressed through EU-wide initiatives of funding?
Well, thank you, Karina, for your nice introduction. Hello, everyone. More than 4 years ago, President von der Leyen announced that children with cancer will be put under the spotlight of the EU to cure more children, to cure them better, and to tackle inequalities. And clearly, over the last more than 4 years, projects, programs, initiatives have been set up, implemented, as summarized by Commissioner Kyriakides. But we are not there yet. In French, we say we are au milieu du gué, in the middle of the fort. And clearly, we need to continue the effort and amplify the effort, especially with one word, inequalities. Because clearly, we did not reduce yet inequalities for children across Europe. Inequalities in access to high-quality care and standard treatment. How? Really strengthening the European Reference Network PENCAN with more support from the member states. Addressing mental health and psychosocial care, which have not been yet addressed properly. Making a more efficient cross-border healthcare directive, because at the moment it can be even more efficient to facilitate cross-border access to care. And finally, improving access to medicines, 24/7, the essential medicines and the new ones. But the other inequalities I would like to highlight today is the inequalities in access to research and innovation. And this has not been addressed so far at the European level, either by the Beating Cancer Plan or the Cancer Mission. Why? 6,000 children and young adults and young people die each year of cancer. And you know it remains the first cause of death by disease in Europe. Over the last 60 years, care and research have been integrated really to improve the overall survival and quality of life of children and adolescents with cancer. This is in the DNA of pediatric oncology. So this is why access to clinical trials and clinical research is so important to really implement practice-changing trial to increase survival, to increase access to standard of care. And clearly there are still major inequalities in Europe at the moment in access to clinical trial. And I would like to show you a map, if it works, if it doesn't work. You see it, yes. This is the map. From 2010 to 2022, 436 clinical trials have been opened in Europe for children and adolescents with cancer. This map and the colors show the number of these trials open in each country. No need a long time to understand inequalities in Europe. And this is what needs to be tackled now, really by supporting better the infrastructure in Europe to deliver clinical trial, clinical research, innovation for all children with cancer. And this is clearly where we ask for the creation of comprehensive pediatric cancer infrastructures that will be able also to amplify the training program across Europe. And clearly we say that this is not superimposable with what is being done at the moment for adult cancer by the creation of the comprehensive cancer network. Because clearly how care and research is delivered in Europe is different from how care and research is delivered for adults with cancer in Europe. So this is why we're really calling for an action at the European level to increase access to innovation and research for all children across Europe. And we believe that this, with improving and reducing inequalities in access to care, will really reach the European goal to cure more children, to cure them better, and the reducing inequalities. So in a nutshell, we are in the milieu du guet. We are in the middle of the fold. And this is why we say, please keep children and adolescents with cancer on the very high on the EU agenda over the next years, because otherwise all what has been done so far will be not really addressing what is the objective in Europe. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Phil, for this very fierce and fiery plaidoyer right at the beginning of our panel. And I would like to move directly to MEP Voiculescu. And so Gilles mentioned many inequalities that we have to tackle: mental health, cross-border health, access to research and innovation, and to care. So what is it that the European Parliament and you as an MEP can do to reduce these inequalities in pediatric cancer care, and with that also increase the survival rates across the EU?
Hi, everyone. I'm first very honored to be here, and I'm very honored to be here in this fight with you. I happen to have met some of you. I know Ms. Kinesberger. We've met in Vienna a couple of years ago. But I will be very happy over the next years to work together with you. Actually, cancer, childhood cancer is what brought me to politics and what brought me to actually even to the healthcare field. So 15 years ago, I was a banker in Vienna, and I found out that children in Romania don't have the necessary medicines to be treated. Medicines like vinblastine, dacarbazine, cosmegan were missing. So what I would do is I would go to the pharmacy on Kärtner Internationale Apotheke and buy the medicines myself, and then I would get them from Hungary. And then find out why those shortages happened and what other inequalities are there in Europe. So my whole mission as a politician is very much rooted in childhood cancer. So if there's one priority for me personally over the next 5 years here in the European Parliament, this is it. What I've been doing so far is before coming here to the European Parliament is I was 2 times for a short while a minister in my country, so I kind of know the problems that national healthcare systems are encountering. Where I think there are lots of issues in the European Parliament and in European politics that we cannot agree upon. There are very different views, and now we have some issues that are where compromise is very hard to get. However, I just had a meeting yesterday with there were auditions for the Minister of Health, the State Secretary of Health from Hungary. Hungary has the presidency right now. So if there's one thing that we can agree upon is probably focus on some healthcare issues, and that some issues, some healthcare problems that European nations face and that European citizens face can only be tackled on a European level. So be it the shortage of medicines, of essential medicines, or access to innovative medicines, be it the shortage of the workforce. I've listened now carefully to what Mr. Gilles Vassal said. That I'm honored to be with each and every one of you here and to listen and to learn. I've met I think the medical director of Gustave Roussy a couple of months ago, actually a year ago at ESMO, I heard what the problems that like a temple of cancer treatment like Gustave Roussy has with the shortage of the workforce, of the personnel has. So this is also a problem that can, I think, only be tackled on a European level. Very concretely, what I'm gonna do and over the next couple of months is I'm going to be the coordinator for my political group for healthcare. We've argued that both in the priorities of the parliament and in the priorities of the new commissioner, cancer in general and childhood cancer is a key focus point. We've also, together with my cabinet, we've started an intergroup. We've sent an invitation, and we've had lots of talks with both with MEPs and with several organizations. SIOP being the very top, both in terms of importance and focus that the team has already put in for forming an intergroup. An intergroup is like the only form of organization of organizing in the European Parliament that is sort of officialized. So, but you need 10% of all the MEPs, all the members of the European Parliament, to form an intergroup. So we're going to do that together with SIOP and ECHO and the Eurordis, and it's going to be an intergroup for cancer with a particular focus on cancer, on children cancer, and it's also going to include rare diseases. So this is not of course this is not a goal by itself, but it's a means to it's an instrument that I hope we're going to be able to use for whatever we want to do in the European Parliament. There was already great interest from members from MEPs from all political groups, even independents, and there are 8 political groups now in the European Parliament. And I'm cautiously optimistic that we can push things forward. I would like things to get very concrete. I've never been in a legislative body before, so I'm already a bit frustrated that things are moving a bit a bit slowly. Usually, I was in the executive branch of the government in the government, so I would love to see to take stock of what we've all promised, what Europe has promised with the BT Cancer Plan. We need to have an assessment and implementation study, see what worked, what didn't work, this is the good foundation to build on. I think it would be wrong to just skip from yesterday's cancer care to tomorrow's cardiovascular and so on. I think all diseases are important, but I think we need to take stock of what happened and we need to continue with whatever worked. I will argue for that, and I think we already have some projects, some pilot projects, or even more than pilot projects, like the ERNs, the cross-border healthcare seeds that have been planted, that have even are bearing fruits, and I think we need to water them a bit. And access to clinical trials is also a big topic. I'm also going to be the shadow rapporteur for the pharma legislation. I appreciate. I'm sure some of you are familiar with that. I appreciate the ambition of the Commission. I'll do my best to join forces with the Commission and push forward for not only for access to essential medicines and to cut off shortages, but also for the development of cancer drugs for children. And I think we should make the industry do that, whatever that's the cost for that, political or whatever that may be. So I'm here for you, and anytime I can contribute with anything from me and my office from the European Parliament over the next 5 years, you can definitely count on us. And we don't want to do things together. We want to do things together with the other political groups, and I really appreciate other members that are where we share the same values and the same goals. And sorry, I was a bit long.
Not at all. Thank you very, very much, MEP Voiculescu, also for your detailed plans and also an explanation of what you have already been involved in these past couple of months. And I saw many nodding heads or affirming heads when you also said that you would really like to build further upon what has been started in the past years. So I think this is very much in all of our interests, moving on. And we heard you say that you are here for us, so we will be happy to take this offer. Thank you very much. So with this, we have talked now about how can we reduce inequalities. Gilles, you before also mentioned mental health. And with this, I would like to move on to Annika. And so I remember well, last year we had organized by DGRTD several very inspiring, interesting workshops with young cancer survivors. And I vividly remember mental health was one of the main topics that was mentioned. And now, based on the recent release of President von der Leyen's political guidelines for the upcoming 5 years, which emphasize protecting the mental health of children and young people, my question would be to you: how can the Commission plan to support the mental health needs of children specifically affected by cancer in the coming years?
Good afternoon, everybody. And well, first of all, thank you for organizing the event and also inviting me. I'm coming from the cancer mission side of the Commission, but as it has been always stressed, we're working hand in hand, and also Commissioner has referred to the mission. Maybe briefly, I mean, we've seen it in her speech since the adoption of the plan and also the launch of the mission 3 years ago. A lot has happened. A lot of actions had been launched at EU level, including on research through the cancer mission. So, I mean, still to be highlighted that having childhood cancer as a horizontal priority, there are a lot of projects, new projects that have been launched since in obviously in the need of responding to gaps in terms of research. So still, that's a positive news. It's not enough. Just to give you a figure, almost 25% of the research projects and budget committed through the first 3 years, so work programs 21 to 23, has been spent on addressing cancers in children, adolescents, and young adults. And the next, the now work program 24 will have another topic, proposals we were just received. So clear message, we will continue our efforts and funding in terms of translational and clinical research efforts, also in future calls. You referred to the dialogue, and this has clearly is guiding us on some of our actions, and for everybody also to remind, the Cancer Mission is about research, but not only. It's a portfolio of actions, so it's also helping to implement the cancer plan. We are launching citizens engagement activities, such as the dialogue with the young cancer survivors, addressing mental health needs and others. We have the dialogue with the member states, together with the colleagues working on the cancer plan, where we can always also highlight the priorities, the results of the projects, discussing policy action. So it's much broader than, for me, that's important to understand. And that's something which will continue. That's already a good news, as you have referred to the mission letter. No, we shouldn't drop what has been launched, because many actions just started. They will take some time. So I can only welcome the commitment from the new MEP that we have to support also of the Parliament, the attention, and I think that's really, really important to accompany that, because what is lagging, I shouldn't be too negative, but what obviously can be improved is then the commitment and support by the member states, because yes, we can have, we have our budget, but it's never enough. And even more when it comes to building or enhancing comprehensive cancer centers or infrastructures, member states need to come in. So any support welcome from the organizations and from the Parliament in this respect. Mental health, I can't say much at the stage. Mission letters are just out. This is under the portfolio of the future health commissioner. So we will see where we will heading to, how this will be further elaborated. But obviously, with the dialogue we have, with the topics we have in addressing also mental health issues, there is the communication on mental health of last year, which also had specifically a section on the young cancer survivors. So it's there. I think we need jointly reflect, how we can take this forward. But there I can't preempt anything what will come, because first the new commissioner needs to come in. Maybe final point also in terms of what we are doing to addressing the needs also of young adults with cancer. In 2 weeks, we'll have a conference. So the mission is also a good instrument to shed a light of areas which are either neglected, where also huge inequalities exist in member states, and this is with respect to palliative care. So we will have a conference in 2 weeks, exactly on the 8th of October, where we look into what the projects tell us, what is the evidence, and experts have developed also recommendations, which will be then discussed at that conference. And there's one session also dedicated to the needs of young patients. So I invite you obviously to join that, and yes, support us in further activities. Again, also on the inequalities, we are looking into what the mission can specifically do. Cancer Board has made suggestions already at the start of the mission to look into the twinning and enhancing capacities. So that's one of the next steps. We have started to reflect on what we can do from the Cancer Mission side. With that, thank you.
Thank you very much, Annika. And also here, it's very encouraging to hear that certain initiatives are continuing. We also know, so new initiatives will start. And also from our side, we are very happy to see that the portfolio really has broadened as you just mentioned, palliative care, that this is included and also is in the focus now. And also, I heard you very well when you said we need to work with the member states and make sure to take steps on how to implement all of these things in all our countries. Thank you very much. So another thing that was mentioned by Gilles in the beginning was drug shortages and access to medicine. And so now the obvious, I would like to hand over my next question to Adrian van den Hoven from Medicines for Europe. And I would like to ask you how can Medicines for Europe play a role in addressing the current inequalities in access to essential pediatric cancer medicines across the EU?
Thanks a lot for the question, and really thank you to CCI and SIOP Europe for inviting me today. I'm really honored to be here. So as Professor Vassell pointed out, I think the previous commission really, or the current commission, let's say outgoing commission, really put this issue centrally on the table of equity of access. So our industry plays a fundamental role, whether it's supplying chemotherapy, hormone treatments, biological treatments, increasingly with biosimilars, in supplying these cancer treatments. It's very clear, as Professor Vassell has pointed out, we do not have equity of access to medicines in Europe, including first-line cancer treatments, as well as secondary care associated with cancer treatments. It's starkly clear if you look at any data on per capita usage. That said, I think there have been genuine improvements. So we have seen that where generic medicines have been able to launch, we've seen a dramatic improvement in the availability of those medicines in especially CEE countries, which have lower per capita spending. So really improvements there. Also, the European Commission, with its new pharma legislation, has put into place very much clearer rules to prevent the delay of access to biosimilar medicines, which are very important for cancer. So for example, rituximab, which is an important drug for both adults and for children, had a delayed launch in Eastern Europe by 1 to 2 years. With a new Bolar/patent linkage ban in the pharma legislation, that would reduce that access time by 1 to 2 years. In fact, in Romania, there was a competition case and fine associated with this. So I think the new legislation will be very helpful there. But still, even when our members launch, we still see dramatically lower usage of something like rituximab in Central and Eastern European countries. So I think we'd really like to work with CCI and with SIOP to see, both for children and for adults, how we can get that access up, because what we see is the access rates or the usage rates go up highest in the richest countries of Europe, like Norway and Sweden, and they go up the lowest in the poorest countries. Now, I'm not saying, that has to be the same, but we would hope to see a bigger gain in the poorest countries of Europe when the cheaper versions become available, which sometimes we're not seeing. And we have statistics there, which really shows a dramatic problem. Maybe a second point I'd like to bring up is beyond undertreatment or access is the importance of pediatric licensing. So I know CCI, I know COPA have done fantastic work to adapt many adult version medicines to pediatric form or pediatric delivery, not always going on license for a variety of different reasons. I think this is a problem. It's not the number one problem, but it is a problem. Not having it on license is somehow a barrier. So again, here I think the pharma legislation has taken a step forward with 2 articles, Article 48, Article 84. One is one where, let's say, researchers or professors can somehow introduce a license that the marketing authorization holder can add. And the other way around is that there's an incentive to do new indications, including for pediatrics. That's the Article 84, so that there's an encouragement for, let's say, generic medicine manufacturers to do this, for example. So I think this is really a positive step. I think there's a little bit of fine tuning of these articles that's needed, but it's a significant material advancement for improving this licensing, which is, currently, I would say, a challenge. Maybe outside of the legislation, there's a bit of a problem with generic medicines. If you want to put a pediatric license, which would require maybe a reformulation of the medicine, which might be the case in some cases, well, actually there, the manufacturer would probably be paid less for the pediatric form, which would have to have R&D and would cost more to produce than for the adult form, because of the way generic markets work in Europe, which is that they're basically based on the volume of API in the drug. And often for children, you'll have a lower dose of API. So as a result, you're forced to get a lower price. And this is uneconomic. It just doesn't work out. So this is something outside of the legislation, but I think really needs to be worked out. So I think there's a lot of good things going forward. You also mentioned shortages. I would love to say that in the area of oncology, we have the lowest risks of shortages. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to tell you the truth, which is that in the area of oncology, we have the highest risk of medicine shortages. The reason for this, I would say, is more on the chemical side of things. You have the most extreme consolidation of the market is in this pocket of the pharmaceutical sector. This is due to tender policies applied by different countries to obtain low prices, which is perfectly fair and justified. But there's no security of supply criteria in procurement, including of very critical cancer medicines. Here again, I think the Commission is looking at introducing guidelines to change this, to put security of supply, and I think this would be very important for cancer medicines in the future to tender with some notion of security of supply, because the market is just simply, I think, way too consolidated. Therefore, the risk of a shortage due to, let's say, a quality issue, which is a high risk, I would say, unfortunately, on the cancer side of things, could lead to a supply disruption, which obviously would not be good for patients, most importantly, but also very disruptive for healthcare practitioners and others. So there's a little bit the situation. I'd say, as Professor Bassat was saying, we're halfway there, but we're going in a good direction to improve things. And I hope we can contribute as a stakeholder to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this overview, and clearly I think we all see it and feel it every day that there is still some way to go, and also picking up at what MEP Voiculescu said before in being patient. So I think this is also something that we have been learning a lot, how to be a bit more patient, but that's not always so easy. So with this, last but not least, I'm very glad to hand over the last question of this panel to Delphine Hinen. And I would like to ask you, Delphine, how patient organizations can ensure that the voices of childhood cancer patients and survivors are heard at the EU level, and what, in your experience, are the most pressing needs of the community that policymakers should address immediately.
Thank you very much for inviting me to speak during this panel. I was very impressed by the quality of the interventions of each of the speakers, and so I feel very humbled to follow you all. So my name is Delphine Hinen. I'm the mother of four boys. One of them died of cancer a few weeks ago. He died after living 11 years with a disease at the age of 20. And what is extremely striking in my personal experience of the disease is through the course of those 11 years, although I can only commend the quality of care in my wealthy country, although the dedication of the medical staff is one of the things that impressed me the most. What depressed me the most is the lack of innovation for his disease. Not a single drug was developed for his type of pediatric cancer in the course of those 11 years. And although I founded our organization in 2016 when he relapsed, we invested in research. And even doing so, it was a very humbling experience, because it's not just about funding research, it's also about creating an environment that truly works to help patients get access to, first of all, and let's not forget that we have to do perfectly what we can do well. So first of all, we have to set the basics right, making sure that first-line treatments are the best we can administer to patients, that everyone gets access to standard of care, gets access to the drugs that they need. And so thank you for mentioning the shortages, Adrian. That's the first basic, and we are, I think, playing a role in highlighting the needs. We're doing that at the European level, but we also play that part at a national level. Making sure that these drugs are available and reimbursed for the patient is evenly important, and it is a challenge when these drugs are not on label. The second thing that patients' organization can do is really build the bridges to make sure that research is steered in the right direction so that it meets the needs of all the patients. And in that regard, it's extremely important that Europe plays a part in building infrastructure for research. And it's really key to make sure that we get the right informatics systems, the right communication channels, and funding for the meetings and the time that people spend together to coordinate their work, because it's crucial that everyone works together in the field of rare diseases like pediatric cancer. We need the hardware for the databases. We need the secure communication channels for imaging when doctors want to collaborate for a diagnosis or the identification of the best treatment for patients. These infrastructures must exist at a European level for research, for the clinic. And so it's both at the European reference network level and at the research level that these infrastructures must be built. We spoke a lot about inequalities, and it's heartbreaking to think that patients in poorest countries don't get access to the best care in the Union, and that must be tackled with comprehensive cancer centers and with access to the drugs. But these inequalities also exist in terms of innovation, like Gilles Vassal mentioned earlier. And we need to make sure that we do research in every field, and we need to create clarity on which diseases are served and which diseases are not served enough, where we have to invest at a fundamental level, where we can support clinical improvements. And that's something where the European Union could also help by enabling collaboration between research organizations. And these are significant endeavors, and they cannot be undertaken at a philanthropic level only. Finally, I want to conclude on how patients' organization can contribute, or how you can contribute to the contribution of patients' organization. I think that I have tried to make a point that we have a point of view that is worth taking into account, that we can identify gaps. But what is also super important is that our work can be conducted impartially, without fear of frustrating donors, without anxiety not to be able to hire the right people. It's a weird thing to say that in philanthropy, what we do is extremely meaningful, what we do is extremely motivating, but we have a lot of people suffering from burnouts because they feel like they have to do so much themselves, because our working costs have to be very low to please our donors. And in fact, we do need a qualitative work environment. We need to be able to hire people to collaborate with and produce the information. And that's where Europe has a major part to play. Operational grants are a significant help to our work. We need to have a long-term view on the fact that we can hire people and count on their work, because without that kind of support, we would only be able to look for funds from the industry. And I think it's the wrong way to go. Not that we don't think that industry doesn't do good work. We just want to be completely independent from them and collaborate with them as much as we want. So disagree or agree, but at least do that independently. And with these considerations, I want to thank you all.
Thank you very much, Delphine. Thank you very much for concluding this panel, and also with summing up the major points that we have heard throughout the panel. So with an eye on the clock, I would like to invite now all of you, our almost 90 participants, we would like to hear from you. So we will open in a second before we start with the Q&A section, eWord Cloud. And we would like you to tell us in one word, or maybe two, why childhood cancer should stay high on the EU agenda. And you will have about 1 minute. And here it comes, so we can see, yes, inequalities to save lives, to meet unmet medical needs, for innovation, clinical trials, quality of life, collaboration, better lives, collaboration, very, very big, as you can see, to tackle inequalities, to have outcomes, to have better access. Still, people are typing, and I think what we can see here in the word cloud really reflects and again sums up very nicely the different topics that we have discussed in the past hour. And so word cloud is closed. So that was fast. Thank you very much, everybody, for contributing. So, and now we will use the 5 remaining minutes to take some of the questions that we have received from the audience. And so I was informed, okay, so I have here the list. Thank you. So there is a question to Annika Novak. And the question is there an overview of which projects are currently ongoing to support pediatric cancer projects? And will there be an impact assessment after they are finished to ensure outcomes of the cancer mission are documented?
Yes. So there is what we call implementation website. So if you Google for the cancer mission, under each of the objectives, we have listed the projects funded so far, and then you find in keywords or coach summary which are on childhood cancer. We didn't assemble them on that, so you find it under the 4 objectives. Missions have been reviewed already last year, but that was really a very early assessment. We'll have the next one in the course of next year, so probably results by end of next year. So yes, we are under strictly monitoring requirements to see how the mission implementation advances. It doesn't really go, I would say, but right now at the project level, but more on the investment overall we've made and where we achieved the overall goal of improving the lives of more than 3 million people. So yes, clearly that will come in between interim and then towards the end of the missions.
Thank you very much. And I see that Jill has a hand up.
Yes, thank you, Karina. Just a short comment. It's absolutely clear that over the last 4 years, the mission on cancer and the beating cancer, but really did a lot, and there is a lot of project ongoing and so on. And the message today is really now, it's also important to strengthen the infrastructure. This is what we are missing. And this is the key element that we would like very much that the Commission is looking at carefully. And the message is what is built in adult will not fit the needs of children. There's a real specific approach of the infrastructure of care and research delivery that need to be addressed if we want all these projects to deliver well and amplify what we'll be doing. So that was just the highlight I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Phil. And you can stay unmuted already, because here's a question for you as well. And that is, how can cross-border collaboration within the EU be strengthened to ensure that every child has access to the best possible care, regardless of where they live?
Well, this is the evolution of change of the cross-border healthcare directive, which is a brilliant idea, which is a patient in Europe can go in another country to have access to the care and treatment they need. One of the issues at the moment is that this does not cover access to a clinical trial. And clearly, we do have some of these clinical trials running new treatments, new drugs, really, that can be effective in a given patient. And clearly, there is no measures at the moment to facilitate cross-border access to clinical research to get access to innovation. And this is clearly what we think should be looked at. The S2 mechanism is really supporting access to care. And now we need a mechanism to facilitate access. Phase 2 trial of a new active drug cannot be open in all the 380 centers across Europe. But then each child should have a chance to have access to this one if clearly he or she can benefit from it. So this is where the cross-border healthcare really can be made more efficient, one aspect and many others.
Thank you very much, Phil. So, and then I have a question from Angelika Jost from EPFIA. And so will you please let us know what your question is?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, thank you very much for giving me the microphone. So I want to say on behalf of the FPR Pediatric Expert Group, so we are basically the innovative industry group, that a lot has really been achieved, and we really support this evolution of the ecosystem. We are really ready to bring all our expertise into this collaboration, and we want to make sure that access to the medicines that we have been developing and will be developing in the future can actually be made available. And so the experience from the past 20 years has been already very fruitful, but more can be done, and we need to leverage all the existing collaborations to make the ecosystem even more friendly for research and innovation. Thank you very much. We're ready to be there.
Thank you very much. Is there from any of the panelists any? Yes, okay, yes, Adrian.
Yeah, I just wanted to react in relation to one of the programs and also to Delphine's excellent intervention. There is a program called Remedy for All, which is encouraging research from charitable groups, philanthropic research, and also connection with industry as well to this. And I think this is absolutely a great start for this type of research, which is medicines repurposing. I think one of the challenges, though, that we can see that we experience, in which maybe the collaboration between groups like this and industry can also improve upon, is whether you're pursuing a for-profit or a not-for-profit project like this in the area of medicines repurposing. One of the areas that is difficult is trying to align around a business plan for such a research, because even a not-for-profit project requires a business plan, because not-for-profit does not mean actually free. Somebody has to invest some money somewhere, either from the philanthropic side or the industry side or a combination thereof. So I think this is one of the areas where I hope this Remedy for All will help us improve, is bridging the gap between how industry sees a business plan, how philanthropic research groups are doing business plans, and then we can hopefully accelerate some repurposing, including for pediatric cancers or some very rare pediatric cancers, which I think is more the focus of this group. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, and then together with the team of SIOP, we decided we can take one last short question, and I would like to put this to Delphine, if you could reply briefly to the question for what is your vision for the future of childhood cancer treatment and care in Europe?
It's a good one. My real hope would be that every child with cancer could be cured from his or her disease without long-term side effects, with a short and easy treatment ride. In a more realistic way, my hope would be that every child get access to a cure and to the best possible care. And that would so imply that I can wait for the moment where we manage to cure cancer without traumatic treatments. But I think that that dream is very theoretical. My actual dream in terms of implementation would be an environment where we can collaborate seamlessly, thanks to a European framework that facilitates that. And that includes, of course, doing better ourselves as charitable, philanthropic organizations, as any actor in the field should really do their best to work together and look at the problems with honesty and without preconceived bias, and accept that sometimes it's complicated. And so we have to be creative to find better solutions. So it's really a call for pragmatism and collaboration to reach the ultimate goal of curing every child without toxicity.
Thank you very much, Delphine, for this perfect closing of the Q&A question. And with this, I hand it over for the final words of today's event to Anita Kienesberger, the chair of CCI Europe.
Hi, everyone. The echo. This is how we collaborate every time good. Yeah, it's always a privilege to close a session like this. It's touching, it's motivating. You know that we are one of the communities we really collaborate, and you could see it in the Slido. This is one driver for us as a community, healthcare professionals, parents, patients, survivors. But I think, you know, I don't have to repeat why it is needed to be in the spotlight. And I think we demonstrated it very well the last years. But we are running out of time. What I really want to strengthen myself is being involved and getting all these privileges from the EU level that we have now. We feel as a patient community to have a responsibility to get back to the national levels. And really what Annika is saying, and all the time I'm so engaged also on national levels to really get this, what we have on a silver plate gotten from the EU and the Commission, all the efforts, all the projects and initiatives. I cannot name it, CCC networks, ECHOS, everything what is going on. This is what we have to be careful about and really looking forward to do everything to get this implemented and to make the national authorities aware that this is really serious and this is how we can do it better for our member states, because we have these gaps in Europe. So with this, I want to close and thank you for being here, those who are lively. Throught, I'm very happy to meet you. People always meet twice, and I'm very happy to see you, that we can collaborate in future more than ever. Thank you, Annika. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, the whole SIOP team for such a great work. Thank you, Teresa. So really, it's always a lot of effort behind the scenes to make this happen. Yeah, and looking forward to our next initiatives and actions we do together. Thank you. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.